it's a bit serious, but as you know, we like to give you a lot of information, and we like to see what's happening within Pakistan, and not just what's happening within Pakistan. How are the systems comprised of? What does it entail? What do we need to be aware of? And are we up to date? Are we doing justice with the whole population of Pakistan? And these are things, questioning or asking what the situation is. It's not a bad thing, because knowledge is power, and also if we can see what the systems are like, we can then see what the strengths and weaknesses are, and then we can adapt and adjust and move forward. So to discuss what happens within the legal framework of Pakistan, we have been joined by Mr. Akhtar Javaid, who is an advocate of the Supreme Court, and he will be explaining to us everything about the Pakistan legal system. Assalamu alaikum, good morning.
Morning. Thank you so very much for inviting me on this wonderful show.
Thank you so much for being here today. It's an absolute pleasure. But I'm going to need you to speak a bit louder, because you're speaking very softly. So within Pakistan, what is the legal system comprised of?
The legal system which we have inherited in our country is based on the system of England and Wales.
Right.
So that's actually based on common law.
Right.
So when I talk about common law, that means there are certain principles which are very important and very significant. For example, the principle of stare decisis is very important. That means the judicial pronouncements.
Okay.
So whatever the decisions the apex court are going to take, that would become a part of our legislative process.
Okay, and already you use lots of terms here that I have heard before, but let's make sure that we clarify everything. So, apex court, what's that?
Apex court is the Honorable Supreme Court of Pakistan.
Okay.
That's the highest form of litigation.
Okay.
Initially, the litigation starts from the civil courts.
Okay.
So
so let's break it down. So the legal structure, so you have litigation,
yeah,
criminal, and
civil.
So these are the three components of Pakistan law.
No.
No.
There are two major components.
Okay,
One
so let's
is the
start
civil.
from set the umbrella. So let's start from the big,
Okay.
and then we'll work our way down.
Okay.
Yeah.
We have to start from the grassroots. What type of litigation you can initiate.
Okay.
When a client comes to you, obviously he's facing a grim situation. So
Right.
you have to extricate him from that chaotic situation as a
Absolutely.
counsel. So what would you do? Obviously, you'll be going to prepare a case for him. When I say case, that means plaint. That is the fundamental document. That's the basic document.
Right.
And the averments of the plaint would constitute the cause of action, the concept of jurisdiction, the court fee, so on and so forth.
Right.
So you'll be recording all the details in that suit. And that suit would be instituted before an appropriate forum of law. And when I say the appropriate forum of law, that means the civil court.
Okay.
So you'll be filing a case before the Honorable Civil Court.
Right.
And the civil court would be going to take cognizance. For instance, you file a case before the senior civil judge. He would be going to entrust that case to the concerned civil judge, who would be going to adjudicate on that case.
Okay.
So on the first date of hearing, after hearing the plaintiff, they'll be going to issue notices and summons to the defendants who have been implicated in that case. So there would be an array of defendants in that case.
Right.
So notices are in terms of different modes. It could be, registered AD, courier service, and proclamation in the widely circulated newspapers. So once the notices are served upon the defendants are required to enter court appearance. So defendants, while filing their defense, which is called written statement,
Right.
so written statement would be the rebuttal.
Right.
They will be going to controvert all the assertions which have been given in the plaint in the form of that written statement. So once the written statement and the plaint, that would be there on the court record, which would constitute pleadings, the court would be going to frame certain issues.
Right.
So there would be two types of issues. One based on questions of law.
Right.
Second, issues would be of facts. That would be the factual controversy by and between the parties. So when I talk about questions of law, what type of questions of law we usually have? That could be pertaining to the question of jurisdiction, because whether the court is having that territorial jurisdiction, whether the court is having that pecuniary jurisdiction to adjudicate upon the case.
Okay, so now this comes up a lot, and this, we hear this a lot in conversation about jurisdiction. Now, we're here talking about it. I'm already feeling a bit overwhelmed with all the different terms that you're using. But then on the grassroots levels, what is actually happening? are people aware of the different processes and the different kind of actions that are required if they do bring a case forward to the system?
Yes, they are aware of that, because once you are a part of litigation, you got to know all these things. And obviously, when a lawyer is engaged, lawyer is telling his client all the time that this would be the next stage on which we have to enter court appearance. For instance, when I was saying that after framing of the issues, the process of evidence would start. So that would actually be the time when the witnesses would be entering court appearance, because you have to produce the list of the witnesses. If you are a plaintiff in a case, obviously you will be producing witnesses in order to substantiate your claim, whatever you have alleged in the plaint.
Right.
Or for that matter, when defendants would be going to enter court appearance, they will be producing their list of witnesses, and witnesses would be entering court appearance for recording of their evidence. So that process is called examination in chief.
Okay.
And
anyone can bring a case against anyone within Pakistan?
If it's not a frivolous case. It's not a baseless case.
Now, who decides if it's a frivolous
Well, it's the court which is adjudicating the case. There is a provision in the Civil Procedure Code which was promulgated in 1908 that if you come across a case in which court does not have the jurisdiction, the defendant can always move an application in terms of Order 7, Rule 11 CPC, which states plaint can be rejected the moment judge comes to know that this case is not maintainable.
Okay, and now another thing, because you threw in a date here, and I was actually going to do this in my introduction, but I think this is the problem, when you brief the guests too much before the show, you kind of forget what you've said on air and what you said behind the scenes. But now within Pakistan, we mentioned that this is a legal system that Pakistan inherited when Pakistan was created, correct? We inherited the British legal system.
That's correct.
Now, you've thrown in a date of 1908, which is still relevant and, it helps people to this day. Is our legal system up to date?
To be honest,
with the needs of the citizens?
No, to suit the exigencies of time, and I guess not.
Okay.
For the reason that the law which we are following here, it was promulgated in 1908. And the law pertaining to the Criminal Procedure Code, that was promulgated in 1868 and 1898, respectively. Now, the issue is, Britishers wanted to perpetuate their own regime. They wanted to stay in the subcontinent. Therefore, certain laws were made in the advent of the 20th century. So there was a purpose. For instance, when I am talking about 1908, so what type of circumstances were there? In 1909, Minto Morley reforms were to be brought, and in 1919, Montague-Chelmsford reforms were to be brought. So they wanted to stay in the subcontinent. So they introduced a concept of inherent jurisdiction, and they made that procedure so cumbersome and so lengthy. That is why people are facing a lot of trial when before the appropriate courts of law.
Okay, and that's actually one of the reasons why we have you on the show to show. Let's find where the little dips are so that we can kind of empower the citizens so that they can kind of maneuver around it or get the best out of their own country. So now, someone who is an advocate of the Supreme Court, but, it gains a lot of respect, the decisions, are upheld, and people do, there's a lot of weight that they carry, obviously. What do you think is the role now of, of the legal system within Pakistan? And yourself as a lawyer, what are your roles to kind of make sure that, first of all, the situation is explained to the citizens of Pakistan, the fact that it is modernized or it's up to date in relation to the needs of the people as well?
Well, as a counsel, I have
we
opted
do
for
need
this
to prove
profession.
the explanation, but I think this is important.
Yeah, I have opted this profession. I had an opportunity to join other professions as well, but I wanted to be a lawyer. So I feel that the job of lawyer is very important, because if you are not seeking successive adjournments on one pretext or the other, and you are there in the court, then judge would come to know that yes, this counsel is very serious. So the procedural hiccups, the procedural delays, if any inordinate delays caused because of strikes by Pakistan Bar Council, so on and so forth, or because of the absence of the judge, that's another phenomenon. But as a counsel, I feel if all counsels are sincere and they go to the court to defend their cases, then I don't think so there would be any problem.
Okay, excellent. So now, is that what's happening when we're putting into practice? Is this the practice on ground reality?
Ground realities are very hard. We
Well,
must admit it.
And we need to admit it, because that's what we're here for. We're here to give that narrative. So
the issue is actually whenever you file a case, there is an option to file a miscellaneous application in the court for seeking an interim injunction.
Okay.
You might have heard this word stay. Stay has been granted. So
Yes.
what is this stay actually?
Okay.
When interim relief is granted to the party, that means final relief can also be granted to the party. So on the first date of hearing, interim order is passed.
Okay.
So once the interim order is in the field, that is always an appealable order.
Okay.
So prima facie, if you have got a good case and there is an irreparable loss which has been caused, and there is a cause of action against you, and there is a balance of convenience which lies in your favor, you have made a good case. But when that interim order, which is an interlocutory order, that is challenged before the appellate form, because the civil judge who has taken the decision, that decision can always be challenged in the appellate form, the Court of District and Session Judge.
Okay, so then after the civil, then it's the district.
District and Session Judge.
Okay, great. Okay, so now for the people who are suffering, who are in legal situations or involved in legal case, if someone is prolonging and delaying their case, what is, because we see a lot of cases that have been going on for 1 year to 5 years to 10 to 15 years, 20 years. What's happening there?
Actually, you have to bifurcate. There are two stages. When you file a case, there are pleadings, there's a cross-examination evidence going on, and the matter is right for passing of the final order. So once the final order is passed, again that final order that is appealable before the appellate form.
Okay.
But the process of execution is also very cumbersome. Suppose if there is a money degree in your which has been passed in your favor, so you want to execute that degree. So what is the law available? Obviously, you will be moving an application before the executing court of law for the execution of that degree by entailing all the details of properties belonging to the debtors. And the judgment debtors are...
You've lost me there. You're going way
Judgment
too much
debtors
to that.
are the individuals against whom degree has been passed.
Okay.
The defendants who were defending the case now have turned into judgment.
Okay.
And the plaintiff who filed the case, he has now become degree holder because there is a decision in his case.
Okay.
So once the judgment debtor is there, and
What's another word for the judgment debtor?
he was defendant in that case, defendant in or respondent in that case.
Yeah.
Now there is a degree.
Let's keep it simple. Let's
Okay.
keep it simple. Yeah. Okay.
So the defendant against whom the has been decided, you have to execute that degree.
Okay.
So you want that amount of the degree must be realized. So what would you do? You will file an application that I want the realization of this decretal amount. So they'll be going to trace the antecedents of the judgment debtors and the defendants. Where are they residing? What are they doing?
Okay.
Have they been declared as proclaimed offender or not? And what are the properties? So let's bring those properties to the dominion of the court. So they'll be going to attach those properties so that the same properties should be put to auction for the realization of the decretal amount.
Right. Okay. And this is at which level?
This is also a lengthy procedure.
Yes, it is. And it
This is
sounds
a
like
full
very
dress.
complicated procedure.
This is a full dress civil trial I'm talking about.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Great. And this is a civil.
Civil trial,
Okay. So
yeah.
now let's move on because after district, because we have literally got 2 more minutes to kind of sum up the district, and then what comes after district?
After district, then there's the Honorable High Court. High Court. So at times you were talking about the delay. Sometimes we move to the Honorable High Court, so that a direction may be given to the subordinate courts to decisions on urgent basis.
Okay. And anyone from civil or district court can go to the High Court?
Yes.
Okay. Fantastic.
If it's an appealable order.
If it's an
because
appealable
there's a catalog in which they've referred that these are the appealable orders.
And this appealable order list, it's available to all the citizens of Pakistan?
Yes.
They can check it on online?
No, those who become a part of litigation.
Oh, so you have
you have to be,
So you have to
either
go to a lawyer.
aggrieved. You have to be aggrieved,
Yeah.
or either you are affected by any of the judgments.
Okay, great. So you must go to law. Now, okay, and one final question, because we are running completely short time. This is such a huge topic that we're literally skimming like the top bits of it. But for someone, majority of people within Pakistan, they have limited resources or access to resources because of whatever situation, be education, healthcare, legal help. Now, for all those people out there, when they are needing a lawyer or some advice or going down the legal path, what are the key pieces of advice that you would say that they would need to keep in mind, especially when it comes to picking a lawyer and then how to go about their case?
There are so many stages in which we suggest to the clients that you should enter into rapprochement or reconciliation. You should not go to the court.
Is that mediation?
Yeah, it's sort of mediation, reconciliation, settlement and resolution of the. So if you want to resolve the issue, nothing like that, you should not go to the court. So we as counsels advise them that it's not appropriate to go to the court.
Right.
So you can, approach. There are forms as well. There are certain courts, reconciliatory courts, which have been created, and they can go to those courts prior to initiation of litigation. So litigation as a last resort would be an option, I guess.
Okay, so that's the practice, and that's wonderful. And also, one final question for all those viewers out there. Is there any way to check that the lawyer that someone is choosing or picking is actually a lawyer? Because just like in the medical world, you have all these quacks. There's probably, or is there nothing like that in the
I think that tendency has been curbed, more particularly when the Honorable Chief Justice of Pakistan he took severe notice of this kind of affiliation. Affiliated with any bar counsel, and you are practicing as a counsel. So this must be deprecated. And so nowadays bars have taken very stringent actions against them who are not enrolled as lawyers.
Wonderful. And now another final question, because we just got one in from one of our viewers. If the person doesn't have any money and they're living within this country, what options do they have?
Well, they can straightway go to the bar councils, and the bar councils have prepared a list of those councils who want to services for such clients who are financially impoverished.
Oh, excellent! So, and they can get that details from
from the bar councillors.
Wonderful.
They can come to me as well.
Well, absolutely. Thank you so much for being here today. It's a pleasure, and we will call you back to kind of actually dissect, because you have the criminal system, then you have the civil system. And then the different district level and high court. So we have a lot to crack on, but we will be doing more shows over the next few months regarding being here today.